Hey guys, this is Marc with RemoteWinBox, and today I wanted to show how you can use RemoteWinBox to connect to SSH on your router. So not only have access to Winbox remotely, but also have access to SSH remotely. And this could be for SSH right to the router itself, or if you want to build a NAT translation, port forward, you could build that as SSH to another device that's on the other side of the router too. So to get started here, what we've got to do is just jump into router listing, and we're going to add a router. So once we click add router, you're going to come in here, add a nickname, and then the trick here is to come in here and enable MTikVG Micmon API. What this does is creates an additional translation for your service that typically is used to connect an API service like Micmon or MTikVG. But in our case, we want to use this for SSH forwarding. So I'm going to put 22 because my router here, I just have a lab router that I just spun up on a VM, and you can see here his name is SSH test. And if I go to IP services, you can see that he's running SSH on port 22. So back here, I'm going to forward to port 22 on this router that I'm building right now. So if I hit submit here, I'm going to generate a router config, and boom, here we go. We're ready to go. We've got a router config. So I'm going to copy this, paste it over here into our terminal window. Okay, great. We now have typical RemoteWinBox access. And if we take a look down here at the bottom, this link will get us to RemoteWinBox. And now this link will get us to Remote SSH. All right, so now let's go ahead and SSH to that. This router is just running in the lab, so it still has admin configured on it. And I'm going to just paste this here. Now you'll notice we've got the colon here. That's not going to work. In this case, we have to specify on the command line the port. So -P for port. And we're going to SSH here to vpn3.remotewinbox.com on port 3922, which matches up with what I see here in the dashboard. And you'll see here I've get SSH key exchange happening. And now I am logged into SSH test, which is the router that we configured at the beginning. But let's say, for example, rather than wanting SSH access to this router, because I've got access to Winbox here and it's not a big deal, maybe I want to SSH to a Raspberry Pi or some other device that's on the other side of the router. In that case, we would still go through these steps, build the port 22 forward, and then over here, maybe we would change SSH to be on a different port, maybe 1022, whatever that you wanted that to be. So that frees up port 22 to be forwarded in my router. So now I can go into IP firewall and I could build a dest NAT that allows me to say, not filter, make sure you can have the NAT here. I'm going to do a dest NAT here, also known as a port forward, so that when we come in on the VPN, and the protocol is TCP dest ported for 22. And you could also use any number that you wanted to translate here. Just make sure you fill that in and then it matches up with our service. So I said 22, I have to translate 22. And then I can say action, we're going to dest NAT that to do a port forward. And we're going to send that to our 192.168.1.144, which is my Raspberry Pi. I could translate to another port, or I can just leave it on 22 and say, okay. And there you go. Now I can SSH remotely through RemoteWinBox to a device that's on the other side of my MikroTik. Thanks for joining us today to learn how to do a port forward to either connect SSH to your MikroTik or to a device on the other side of it. Thanks for joining us, and we've got more exciting tips coming. Have a great day.